What is up, everybody? Super excited about today's session. I see that we got a lot of people trickling in. So, as you are joining us, I would love to see where everybody's coming in from. So, if you could take some time, put in the chat where you're checking in from. Would love to see where in the world everyone is. We got Seattle in the house. Hey, we got Denver. Montreal. Arlington, Texas. We got DC. Irvine. Damn, we're from all over here. I love it. See some hands being raised. Iman. All right, as you guys are trickling in, throw in the chat where you're from, where you at. Cool. So I kind of just want to get a sense of the room, see where we are. So if you could answer this poll real quick, let me know. Are you a job-seeking software engineer? Yes, no, not yet, considering it. Let me know. All right, so we got a bunch of votes coming in right now. See, most of us, yes, we are job-seeking software engineers. Right now we got 80% yes, 10% no, 10% not yet. All right, we got almost everybody voted here. I'll go ahead and share these results here. So good stuff, good to know. We got the majority are job-seeking software engineers. We have a couple who are not yet, some said no. All right, cool. And another poll, how many years of experience as a software engineer do you have? For those who have experience. Seeing a lot of votes coming in. All right. See, it's about half and half, 0 to 1, 1 to 3. You got one that's 6 to 10. That's cool to see. All right, go ahead and share these results. Good to know. So yeah, welcome to our technical job search checklist presentation. My name is John Brian Canella, and today I'm gonna be have the privilege to facilitate this workshop. So I work as let me introduce myself. I work as a career coach here at Alco, where I help software engineers through the job search lifecycle by helping them sharpen their behavioral interviewing skills. And I do this through one-on-one coaching facilitation and also leading classes during our 4-week career accelerator program. And at Alco, what we do is we empower job-seeking software engineers to earn the job of their dreams and ultimately create their own career success. It's what makes me super excited to be here, and I'm super appreciative of you joining us today. On top of being a career coach at Alco, I also work as an incident response consultant at a cybersecurity company called Mandiant, and I focus on computer forensics and incident response as a service for companies who've been breached by cyber attacks. When I wasn't working at Mandiant, prior to that, I was working at Cisco Systems as an IT engineer, also with a cybersecurity background at Cisco. And I graduated from the New Jersey Institute of Technology with a degree in IT network security and a minor in business. So if it wasn't for the things that I'm going to talk about in today's class, I wouldn't be where I am today. So super excited to share some of these tidbits with you. So at Alco, we have now worked with over 2,000 software engineers, and it's all resulted in better paying jobs with 35% average increase in salary. And this can go somewhere between 90,000 for a junior level to 150,000 for a senior level. So this is where we've seen software engineers land. And of course, it varies depending on the company. So what we're going to cover today is Alco's job search checklist. What I want you guys to take away are the different checks. So I have check one, do I understand the technical interview process? We want to make sure that you understand that by the end of this. Have I practiced my technical interviewing skills? So we'll talk a little bit about how you could get some practice there. And then for check three, have I built deep confidence and practiced interview and communication skills? So we'll go deep into that. All right, so let's jump into check one. Do I understand my technical interview process? All right, so to flourish during the interview process, we need to know ourselves, right? If we don't know who we are and how we provide value, and we aren't able to communicate that, then how can we expect a company to understand how we add value? So companies are going to be asking us deep questions about who we are and how we respond to certain scenarios. And doing self-reflection is going to be critical for us as we're applying to these jobs. So what every interview process is designed to understand about you is how you add value at the end of the day. So why do we do things? Like, what is our motivation? Are you intrinsically motivated or are you extrinsically motivated? Nobody wants to work with somebody who's solely motivated just by extrinsic factors like money, right? If you're only in it for the money, that is going to show up in the workplace and it's going to show up in the interview, right? So those, even though of course we want to make sure that we're getting paid well, that shouldn't be the only reason why we're motivated to do our jobs. And these kinds of people are usually not the ones that are usually going above and beyond to make sure that the job gets done. For two, how is it that we do things? What are our values and our cultural fit? It all boils down to answering the question, do I want to work with you? And do I like you? That's what they're trying to understand. And for three, what is it that we actually know? What are our skills, our technical knowledge, and our experiences? Do we actually qualify for the roles that we're applying to? For four, does the future look bright? What's our potential? How is it that we add value to the company? These are the same types of questions that you should be prepared to answer and expand on during an interview. So I would say like this is step zero, even before you go in. Like I mentioned before, if we don't know how we add value, if we can't answer these questions ourselves, then it's going to be tough for the person on the other side to know this about us. So super important. All right, now this is a quick slide here. We need to develop a deep understanding of the role, the team, the manager, the department, and our business impact. So for the role, what are the core responsibilities? Is it like front end, back end? Is it a leadership type position? How would my previous experience allow me to do well in the new role that I'm applying to? Understanding that. For the team, why does the team exist? What's the mission of the team? What are the core values? Have I done research of it? Like, and the way you could do research, you go on the company website, you go on LinkedIn and see what the team is about. For the manager, you can also do your research on the manager, the hiring manager for this new role. How long has he worked at the company? Is there any way that you could find maybe some commonalities? Maybe you guys went to the same school, right? Something that you could bring into the interview and find that common ground. Finding common ground is so huge when you're going into an interview. For the department, You can look at Glassdoor, companies like the company website, LinkedIn. For business impact, how critical is your role and the department to the overall success of the company? Those are super important things to understand before going into it. And it's going to having a deep understanding of this is naturally going to build confidence, and it's going to allow you to speak with a great tone going into an interview. All right, so consider the following when hiring your next employer. And the reason why I got the title like that is because it's important to know that when we're interviewing at a company, the interview is a two-way street, right? You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. So before you step into the interview, we got to do our homework. So let's consider some of these points here. If anybody wants to throw it in the chat, like what out of these 16, I got a whole bunch listed here. Out of these, what would you say is like the most important for you? Kind of curious to see what people throw in the chat here. Out of these, what stands out? What's like a non-negotiable thing here? Values and culture, your boss. Yep. Yeah, so I see number 10. Number 10 is values and culture. Yeah, big on culture and values. And this is something that the team is obviously gonna spend a lot of time trying to figure out about you as well. Like, do you actually fit the values and the culture of the company? And when you're interviewing, that you always want to make sure that you are bringing that part in. Like, one of the reasons why you want to apply to this position is not just because it's a big tech company or it's a startup, right? It's because the values align with yours and you feel like the work that you're going to be doing is fulfilling, and highlighting that point. That's what's going to aligning with the values is what's going to separate you as a technical person versus somebody else who's technical who's applying to the same position. Other things to consider: size and age of the company. So generally small companies, you might find a lack of process and structure because they're just starting up. So if you thrive on autonomy and variety and a little bit of chaos, you'll probably be fine in this type of environment where you'll be able to work across like cross-functional teams. But if you like more of just solely focusing on one thing, maybe a larger company is going to be better. And usually they have their processes already built out, so it's made them a successful big company. But the overall impact might be lower, or it might take a little bit longer to actually see the impact of your work at a larger company. So those are things to consider. Caliber of leadership, the founders' backgrounds, those are things to research as well. So what are the backgrounds of the leadership team? Are these industry professionals that have a good solid brand that you'd like to work for? What are employees saying about the CEO of the company? Those are also big things to consider. I think there's an app called Blind that you could check out, and in that app you could see what other people are saying about the company and what people are saying about other companies anonymously. So Glassdoor as well is a great resource there. We mentioned mission and vision a lot. So Simon Sinek, he's an author and a motivational speaker. He wrote the book Start With Why, and in that book he mentions people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So why you do it is like the purpose behind the things that you do, what you do. And if our purpose aligns with the company's purpose, we're gonna work with blood, sweat, and tears versus just doing it for the paycheck. And of course, total compensation. Nobody said 16, but I'm gonna say it because I think total compensation is super important. Knowing that it's not just about the base salary, but understanding the different types of perks, salary, equity, bonuses, things like free food, like free lunch, depending on the company, limited time off, 401k matching, work from home. So those are all things to consider. All right. So you did your homework, you reflected, now it's time to apply. So this is the application stage. So be mindful of the job search black hole. The job search black hole. What does that even mean? So the job search black hole is when you apply to a ton of places and you just never get a response. And sometimes it's because the resume is lacking. There might be too many people that are applying to the same role. Or it could be because the resume is just hard to read and they're just going to pass you up. So it's important to understand that the average recruiter looks at a resume for an average of 6 to 7 seconds. And an average recruiter is also looking at about 600 resumes and has around 20 phone screens per week. So imagine if you're a recruiter and you're swamped with resumes and interviews and phone screens and all of that, you don't have time to be looking at multiple pages of a resume or trying to figure out, doing all the homework on a candidate to see if they're the right one when there's so many other candidates to choose from. So you want to make it as easy as possible for the recruiter to see your value. And a resume is the best way to for us to have a good first impression. So here's an example of a bad resume or a resume that shows like limited experience. At the top, we have relevant coursework, which one could argue if you're just graduating from college, it's okay to have some courses that you feel like align with the role if you don't have too much experience. But in general, we don't want to have courses on there because everybody's taking these courses, right? We want something that differentiates us. So focusing on bullet points, having bullet points on there, things that highlight task, action, and result. So how we performed, what was the result of our actions. Also want to make sure that we use bullet points, highlighting coding projects, that when we look at from the top to the left, we're easily able to read it. Something that's 1 page. In this scenario, this resume is 2 pages, so it doesn't pass that test. Something that's like, I could easily see in 7 seconds, like, okay, this is how this person adds value, and let's move forward with this person. I often hear people saying, oh, well, I have so much experience, I need to have it in more than 1 page. And to that, what we usually say is, it's okay to have multiple pages, but have multiple pages as your master resume that you keep for yourself, and then tailor your resume to the position that you feel like let's say you're applying to a software engineering role at a specific company that you have one particular experience that would be really great for that role. You could put that like front and center there, and the positions that don't really apply for that role that you're looking to get into, you don't need to include that. Include the positions that are best aligned with the role that you're applying to. So you could keep it in 1 page. All right, so here's an example of a good resume. Oh, here's an example of a good resume. Sorry for going ahead. So at the top, we have technical skills. And the reason why we have technical skills at the top is because recruiters are often just looking to see really quick, like, how does this individual add value? And do the skills that I see on the resume align with what's in the job description? There's also tools that are used to scan resumes, and they're looking for those keywords. So if we have them at the top, it's just easier for the resume to stand out. At the top, we also see bullet points. Well, we see bullet points all throughout, but at the top, we have it bold. We have a LinkedIn. I see also a GitHub page. So that's also something to include. At the bottom, we have recent projects. So professional experience, and you can notice education is all the way at the bottom. Making sure that our resume looks good is what's going to separate us from other candidates. And oftentimes we get the question like, man, I have a resume, it doesn't look too good. How do I make sure that it stands out? We have a resume template that we share with people who join our program. And since you're here today, I'm going to share this here with you. and you could utilize this template for your own resume. Just make sure that you just copy the bullet points that are relevant for you, and you're not like leaving these here. Awesome. Also, when it's time to apply to companies that you are passionate about, it's like, how do we find the right company? That's also a question that we get. So keyvalues.com is a great website to, yeah, let me just post these links here. That's the Key Values website. And then this is that's the resume document I posted in the chat. So if you go to team values, let's say, I want to make sure that my team is diverse. I want to make sure that I can hang out with friends outside of work, safe, supports physical wellness, work-life balance, committed to personal growth. So I could just click around, and then I could go to the matches, and then I could see here what companies match my values. So this is a great way to find companies that I might be wanting to work at, that has a good team culture. So I see Gusto. I could click here, profile, and see, okay, engineering team at Gusto. So I have a little description here. I can apply directly. So this is a great way to find positions here. Software engineering. Cool. So yeah, you could just apply directly right from here. So just wanted to share that with you. So we have it. All right. So definitely bookmark that site and use it for the future. With regards to recruiting and making sure that we stand out with other candidates, something that we also recommend is reverse recruiting. So reverse recruiting, what that is, it's the process of being your own recruiter. And it's to some people, it can be uncomfortable reaching out to people that you don't know. But it's something that we highly recommend at Alco because it's our chance to develop relationships with recruiters, with software engineers, and it puts us in a position where we're not just blindly applying to positions and being lost in that black hole, right? That of a bunch of resumes and applications that are just like never seen. So if we develop a relationship with an individual using LinkedIn, it saves time. It allows for potential referral from the company, and referrals are instances where an internal employee is saying, okay, this is somebody that I believe would qualify for this role. Let's get this guy or girl into the pipeline ASAP. And it just like speeds up the process. So here we can see Jay Pham. He's a recruiter at Google, and we can tell that he wants to meet you. And how can we know that? It says right there in the header, it says, hey, let's connect, right in the profile. So you could see a lot of people that are just like him via quick LinkedIn searches. And you can read his about page, so you can see where he went to school. You could do research on him. This is nothing creepy here. People do this all the time. People are constantly trying to find people like you who are looking for jobs. So this is our way of utilizing the same platform to find other people to connect with. So try to find people that at the companies that you want to work at, find some common ground, and then reach out. When you press connect, always make sure to add a note. That way you stand out from other people who are just pressing the connect button, and they could see, like, you could, in the add a note, you could say, hey, it's a pleasure to connect with you. I noticed that you have experience in this. I believe that I would add value in this way. Do you have time for maybe a 10-15 minute phone call to chat about potential positions at the company? Or you could say that you've already applied to this position, insert link, and that you would like to further discuss possibilities of working there, or you just want to like learn about what it's like to work at the company. And if the person has 10 or 15 minutes to chat, always make sure to end that note with a question to connect. Another note is software engineers. So when you're reaching out to software engineers, they're incentivized to listen to you because they have referral bonuses if you actually wind up getting the position. So don't feel like you're bothering a software engineer at a particular company by reaching out to them on LinkedIn. So it's a win-win scenario. You build the relationship, and if you wind up getting the position, if they refer you, they get a referral bonus. And these bonuses could be somewhere around $5,000 to $10,000, depending on the role. So definitely something to consider when you are reverse recruiting. All right, let's go to the phone screen stage. So phone screening, what is it that a typical screening look like, phone screen look like, or recruiter screen look like? So during the phone or video conference, during those types of interviews, you'll be speaking with a peer, a potential peer, or a manager. And for software engineering roles, the discussions will generally be somewhere around 30 to 60 minutes. And when answering coding questions, you'll talk through your thought process while writing code in a Google Doc that you'll share with your interviewer. So we recommend for this process that you're using a hands-free headset or using speakerphone so that you could type freely in the document. And for all other types of roles, discussions are usually going to be around 30 to 45 minutes. So be prepared for behavioral, hypothetical, or case-based questions that cover the role that you're applying to. All right, so this is a quote by Maya Angelou. I'm sure many of you here have heard about it. I love this quote. It says, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." All right, so when answering interview questions, what we're doing is we are providing proof of our competencies and our fit through examples. And even though the person on the other side might not memorize every single detail that you said in your response, they're going to remember how they felt. So we got to make sure that we tell our stories in a way that is memorable for the recruiter. And we want to make sure that our answers are clearly heard, that our tone is right, and that it's compelling, and that the other person will want to be interested to learn more. So how do we make sure that we're memorable during the whole interview process? That goes to my next point. So the proof, we need to provide proof through examples that align our competencies and fit. And the way that we do this is by being specific and also by utilizing the STAR method. And the STAR method stands for situation, task, action, and result. So this is what allows us to answer these questions fully, and it's what helps the person on the other side know the who, what, when, where, how, why of the whole scenario. So for a situation, we're saying the time and place that the situation is occurring, right? For task, what was the task that you were assigned with? How did you handle that issue? For action, what was the action that you took in that particular instance? And then for result, provide specific is where you're providing specific measures and outcomes, having metrics that are aligning with your results, with your actions. This is where you could tie the answer all together. So it prevents us from answering it in a way that's just like a one-word reply. So let's say you're asked a question like, what would your most recent manager say about you? Let's say that was the question that you were asked. What would your most recent manager say about you? And let's say your response was something like, my manager would say that I'm a good team player. You're answering the question directly, I'm a good team player, but you're not utilizing the STAR method. So it's not really that good of an answer. So let's say instead, if I were to ask you, what would your most recent manager say about you? Let's say you were to say something like, one of my most recent managers at, X company would likely say that I'm an excellent team player because recently I was working with the sales team and my colleagues were split on how to proceed with a sales strategy to win new business. And this was negatively affecting our ability to move forward. And knowing that the deadline was near, I presented a new strategy that signed on 50 additional business clients by the end of the year. And this increased sales by 20%. And as a result, implementing my idea also saved a number of colleagues from being let go. Right. So there you spoke about a situation, what was the task, the action, and the result of your actions there. So I included measurable results that help the interviewer on the other side understand the impact that I made in that scenario. And this is what we're going to want to incorporate as we answer our interview questions. All right. So what are your salary expectations? This is probably a question that you'll be asked early on in the interviewing process, maybe during the initial phone screen. So we got to make sure that before we go into the phone interview that we do our research, and we need to make sure that we're prepared and know what to respond with. What we don't want is where we're in a situation where we're on the phone and they're asking us this question and we have no idea what to say, or maybe we just give them a number like, my salary expectation, I want market rate, or we say something like, I don't know, let's say I'm making $85,000 right now, and I say, $100,000 would be nice. So I say 100,000, or I say 110,000. We don't want to just give a number here. This is not the point where we're doing this, because we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot. And by that, what I mean is maybe the position is going for 150, and by saying that we're okay with 110, we're going way below what the position is going for. So later on in the presentation, I'm going to go on how to fully answer this question. But for right now, what I want to focus on is we have these bullet points are websites that you could use for salary research. So I'll go ahead and drop these in the chat for you. So Glassdoor, PayScale, Levels.fyi, TeamBlind, Salary.com, cost of living calculator, especially if you're moving for that role. You want to make sure that when you're moving from one place to another, that your salary is adjusted with the cost of living, right? Also, things to consider are relocation bonuses, and those are things that later on in the process. But for the very beginning, let's say you're in the phone screen, you want to make sure that you're doing your research so that you have an understanding of what your salary goes for at that company. All right. So we'll go now to the technical screen stage. And actually, before I go forward with that one, I want to actually launch another poll. So we have an Outco Slack community, and we would love if you would join. So if you're interested, please fill out the poll. Let me know if you're interested in joining our Slack community. Let that go for a little bit. All right. So before engaging in a technical interview, make sure that you're asking for a free coaching call. And this is something that not too many people know, especially if you're working at one of the top, if you're interviewing at one of the top tech companies. If you're interviewing at one of the top tech companies, asking for a free coaching call, this is where they walk you through what to expect and for the interview that's coming up and what you can study for. If you're not interviewing at one of these top tech companies, what you could do is you could visit a website like interviewing.io. And it's a great resource where you can practice interviewing with engineers from Google, Facebook, and more anonymously. So this is what interviewing.io looks like. You can practice with, like I said, with people who are actually working at these top tech companies. And it's totally anonymous. So it's really nice to get that feedback there. So interviewing.io, post that right here. Cool. All right. So during the technical phone screen, this is your chance to talk about what you're learning and working on right now. Things like the different languages that you're pursuing, like different coding languages, or different projects that you're doing. And it's usually going to be around 45 minutes. And the intro question, of course, is going to be something like, tell me about something that you're currently working on. Highlight the percentage of time that you're spending coding. Always want to make sure that you're highlighting that. And let's say in your current job, you're not coding too much. If you're not able to talk about that, about what you're currently working on in your job, as far as like coding projects, you can always mention coding projects that you're working on the side. And if you have anything that like any projects that you can put in on GitHub, this is something also that you could highlight during the interview. Examples as well that you could have as far as questions go are: given a list of integers, find the frequency of a target. You'll probably be asked something like that. Also, open-ended questions like, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about something that you've built that you're particularly proud of. This is your chance to sound very passionate about the things that you're proud of working on. Tone and pitch and pausing as you're speaking, the whole flow of the interview, that's also going to be taken into consideration on top of like the actual words that you're saying. So if you have any projects that are listed on your resume, also expect to be asked questions about those particular projects. So you should be able to talk at length about any projects that are on your resume. If you can't talk about it, then I wouldn't even list it there. Also, you want to make sure that you talk about like, things that went well in a project, what didn't go well, how did you handle that? How did you handle challenging situations? So those are also things that they want to figure out about you. All right, so keys to a successful tech interview. So always talk about the code that you're currently writing. Ask questions to demonstrate your understanding. Demonstrate constraints and edge cases. Highlight optimal solutions. Always be communicating as you're going through problems, and as you're coming up with your solution, coding it, make sure that your code compiles at the end. All right, so now we're moving on to the on-site interview stage. And here we're gonna go through the on-site format. So for the on-site format, it's going to be generally 5 different 45 to 60-minute interviews with a 1-hour lunch break. All right, so be prepared for that. Make sure that you're mentally preparing yourself for a pretty long day. Typically, it's going to be on a whiteboard or a Google Doc or Coderpad. So expect some whiteboarding questions. You can pseudocode in this portion, but as a crutch, but we prefer that you don't, that you're actually writing code. Expect around 4 data structure and algorithm problems and 1 system design problem. If it's for like an entry-level type role, system design is usually not asked. System design questions are usually to level set somebody. So if you're going for a senior type role or a mid-level role, you might be asked a couple system design questions on top of your data structure and algorithm questions. You'll be asked domain-specific questions throughout that are sprinkled in. So if you're interviewing for a front-end specific position or a back-end role, those are things that to expect. For next steps, so let's say you made it, you made it through the interview. Things that the hiring committee are going to be evaluating are your tech screen performance. So did your code compile? Was it optimized? For the phone screen, were you able to, how did you perform in relative to others? Were you easily able to communicate with? For your resume, how do you stand out with competing applicants? Right now, what they're doing is they're trying to assess your, how you stood out from other applicants, your analytical skills, your coding skills, communication, and they're also going to see, if you were an internal referral. So if you're an internal referral, that adds weight to the decision-making process. Usually people inside that are vouching for you, they could, like, if it's a recruiter, if you built a good relationship with the recruiter, he or she might say, maybe this person didn't answer the question fully, but as I was engaging with this individual, I saw that, this person definitely fits our culture. And I know with a little bit of coaching, this person could flourish in this role. So make sure that we, develop relationships with the recruiter. That person's your advocate. That person's rooting for you, making sure that that role is filled. And then if you could develop relationships with software engineers through reverse recruiting on LinkedIn, that's another thing that you could do. All right. So I see it. A lot of you with the poll, a lot of you guys want to be part of that Slack. So I'm going to go ahead and put that link in there for you guys. So feel free to join the Slack room. All right. So the last poll that I'm going to launch is regarding our Alco info session. So if you can, please let me know what days you're available to join us for a live Alco info session. We'd love to know what day works best for you. So I'll leave that running there throughout the presentation. All right, so check 2. That moves on to check 2. Have I practiced my technical interviewing skills? So resources to practice our technical interviewing skills. I mean, if you study software, computer science, or are practicing your software engineering skills, I'm sure you've already heard of Cracking the Coding Interview. It's one of those best-selling books where you have a ton of programming interview questions that are ranging from the basics to the most trickiest algorithm problems. And that's one of those books that we recommend for anybody who's trying to pass an interview, wants some practice. I already mentioned interviewing.io, so where you could practice with engineers working at the top tech companies. Another link that you could visit is PRAMP. So PRAMP is a free online peer-to-peer platform for practicing your technical interviews. So I'll go ahead and paste that in the chat for you as well. I see a question, what is the Alco info session? So the Alco info session is where you can learn more about Alco, the Career Accelerator 4-week program, where you can learn how you can partner with career coaches, technical coaches, to help you get a job that you're looking for, whatever job that would be within software engineering. So yeah, you get to, it's almost like a gym where you could practice, you could have mock interviewing sessions. The program is comprised of coaches that have worked in the top tech companies. The program was also developed by people who worked at Google, Amazon, Uber, Cisco. So definitely look into that if you want to learn more about Alco. Good question. CodeSignal, moving on, codesignal.com is another site that you go where you can complete assessments that are simulated with real world problems. So there's a lot of practice questions there. I'll go ahead and paste that in there. And then LeetCode, I think LeetCode is one of the most popular ones out there. You have in LeetCode, there's over 1,600 questions that you could use to practice. So I'll go paste that in there too. So definitely bookmark those so you can practice your technical interviewing skills. And what I love about these sites here too is that it allows you to have not only practice on your own, but you can practice with other people that are working at these top tech companies. And it's almost like you're in the real world scenario. All right, so brushing up on fundamentals, super important. Making sure that you practice sharing your knowledge and thought process out loud, reiterating the problem and stating your assumptions, tell the interviewer why you're choosing the solution that you chose as you're working through these problems. And in the end, walking through your code for errors and explaining what you see. This is super important because oftentimes people are just writing code and they're not talking through it. So what we say is using the ABCs, always be communicating as you're walking through your thought process and writing your solution. The last point, always keep an eye on time and keep the conversation going. All right, so these tips right here, this is what's gonna help you crush your coding interview. We don't wanna have silence, complete silence in the interview too. So make sure that you're communicating, talking about why you're choosing the solution that you're choosing, because there's usually more than one way of solving a problem that's being asked. All right, so this leads us to check 3. Have I built deep confidence and practiced my interview communication skills? So this leads me to the question, what is confidence? What is confidence? Can anybody tell me here what's confidence? Or what do you think it is for you? Because many people have different definitions for it. Where does it come from? Where does confidence come from? I see bold. Yeah. I guess, confidence means synonymous to bold. I can see that. All right. So we got one answer. Confidence. So I think where it comes from, confidence comes from within. And what it is, it's the support that's coming from the voices that are inside of your head. And it's a feeling of self-assurance that's earned by appreciating your own abilities and qualities. And ultimately, it's something that comes from you. So understanding this is going to, that it comes from within is going to help us as we're applying to these jobs. So here's an image here. There could be many interpretations for this image. Can anybody tell me in the chat, when you see this image, what comes to mind? What comes to mind when you see this image? Like, what do you think this image elicits? I see being scared. Okay. I see a reflection of you. That's deep. Yeah. See the shaking hands there. I see doubt. Okay. Yeah, great answers here. So a lot of times when we're connecting with others, we're usually dealing with a projection that we have about ourselves. And that projection is usually reflected through the other person. There's this quote that says, "My perception of you is a reflection of me." And the reason I share this is because oftentimes what's happening here is some level of lack of confidence that's happening under the surface. So if we understand that, if we're more confident, like being more confident in our abilities, understanding that if we are more confident, we're going to be less intimidated by other people and the way that people, what people think about us. We're just not going to really pay too much attention about that. Now, confidence, it presents itself in the way that we speak to ourselves, to our own selves, our self-talk, through the way that we write our resumes, how we do our phone screening, how we even negotiate our salaries, right? If we don't think that we deserve a certain salary, because we don't have that confidence, we might not even negotiate. We might just get anything that comes our way. It might even translate itself into the way that we pursue different coding languages or different technical problems, thinking that, do we have the technical ability? Do we have the confidence to apply the skills that we've worked so hard to acquire or to learn a new concept? So confidence is super important. And communicating with confidence, even if we know the answer, that's something that the interviewer is trying to pick up on as well, if we can boldly communicate our thoughts. So all things to take into consideration as we're in the process. All right, so if confidence relates with the voices that are inside of our head. How can we actually build confidence? Now, these are 5 points here: self-awareness, managing stress, shifting your mindset, community support, and practicing skill building. So for self-awareness, being self-aware is what helps you understand your own motivations, thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's what I highlighted in the very beginning of being self-aware before even applying to these jobs. It's what that alone builds confidence, knowing that we know the company in and out, we know the team in and out, the manager, we've already done a research on them. So that's going to help us. Managing stress. So when we're anxious or nervous, how is it that we manage our stress? What's our natural response to stress? Like there's the fight or flight scenario, or freeze. Do we freeze up? Are we tense? Or what are we doing to cope with that stress? If we're able to understand how we manage, or if we're able to manage our stress, that the result of that builds confidence. Shifting your mindset, super important. So with some of us, there's a lack of confidence because there's those voices that are inside of our head that's trained to beat us up. There's a story that we tell ourselves, how we see the world. Do we have a growth mindset, or do we have a fixed mindset? Do we believe that we can continue to grow? If we do, we usually, that in turn translates into that growth and building that confidence. For community support, we need to surround ourselves with people and having those thoughts that empower us, understanding that we're not doing this alone, that we have a community out there that supports us. And it's one of the reasons why Palco is also here, understanding that we're in this together. For 5, practicing our skill building. This involves continuous growth and lifelong learning. And you're already doing this by being here, by being in this talk. You're already trying to continuing to build your skills, and this is something that you're already doing right now. So that should build confidence already for yourself. Now, common roadblocks. These are normal things that us as human beings face. So what here? Curious to see what the audience here. What are some common roadblocks on this list that you have gone through? It could be just in general or during the job search. Fear of rejection, yeah. See, imposter syndrome. Yeah, imposter syndrome is huge. Say fear of rejection. Lack of productivity. Yeah, for fear of rejection, I think that's a huge one because we might not even apply to jobs because we're in fear of being rejected to them. Let's say we have 1 or 2 years of experience and the job is saying 3 to 5 years in the job description. Something to note there is that a lot of times what the job description is what's on the job description is usually something that's written by the hiring manager, that it's like the nice to have, like we would love somebody with 3 to 5 years of experience. But usually roles can be created if you have 1 year of experience or 0 to 1, 0 to 2 with some projects that you've done on the side. That don't let 3 to 5 years, or let's say you have 3 years already and there's a position that says 5 years. Don't let that stop you from applying to that role, even though you don't match every single thing that's on the bulleted job description. Oftentimes that's a roadblock that stops us. And if we were to get past that, we could apply an interview and potentially even get that role. For imposter syndrome, that's super common as well. We need to know that these are just normal thoughts that are in our head, and we gotta think about all the things that we've accomplished to get to this position right now, to even be empowered to apply to this role. Right? We worked so hard to obtain these skills. We either done a boot camp, or we were self-taught, or we went to college. Right? We utilize all these links that I've been providing you with. Right? Like, you've worked so hard to obtain these skills. Don't let imposter syndrome bring you down to move forward. Again, these are perfectly normal to go through. But what we need to do is reset our focus and look at the bigger picture. So we need to go into interviews thinking less about individual problems that need to be solved, because of course there are problems that need to be solved that are individual tasks that, as you know, that's the reason why, right? We might think they're hiring me because they want me to solve this one problem, but that's not it. It's bigger than that, right? We got to think about the perspective of being the solution that a person or a company is looking for. We are the solution, right? We are problem solvers. It's part of our DNA, and it's how we add value and why the company is going to be hiring us. One of my good friends, her name's Giselle Ruiz. Uh, she's a recruiter, a top talent acquisition person at TikTok. And I love one of these quotes that she mentioned in her podcast. She said, we need to go into conversations with the mindset that they're lucky to have you. We bring so much fire. We bring so much tenacity. We've overcome barriers and adversity. We've juggled multiple things in our personal and professional lives, and we're excellence in every single way, shape, or form in the way we can and in the way that we contribute. And we've contributed so much to organizations that's well beyond the day-to-day responsibilities of that job. So we need to go into these conversations truly knowing that and knowing our worth, and that what we are bringing to that organization is far greater than what they're bringing to us. So when we remember that we're problem solvers, this is going to help us get past those roadblocks that are here, right? We've overcome so much just to get to this position, and they're hiring us not just because we can solve one problem. They're hiring us because being a problem solver is part of our DNA, and just have that mindset going in, and lift your head up, have a good posture, and speak with confidence, knowing that you have what it takes to excel and succeed in anything that you set your mind to. All right. So we know that none of this is easy. Applying to jobs every day, taking phone screens, building that self-awareness, that's super tough. Building relationships with strangers through reverse recruiting, giving presentations to your peers, solving technical problems, interviewing, researching companies, technical assessments. It's a lot. It's a lot. So when we're applying, sometimes we might hear a no. And what I want to say here is that if you hear a no, that no does not mean no forever. It can mean a no right now, right? And it could be no for different reasons. It might not be something bad that you did or something wrong with your resume. It could be something that is just like lost because there's so many people applying to the same role, or they lost budget on their side, right? It could be a lot of things. For me, for example, when I was first applying to Cisco, I was getting a ton of auto rejection emails, but I didn't let that stop me. I continued to apply to different roles. I did reverse recruiting. I attended conferences. I saw when people at Cisco were gonna speak at my alma mater in different locations as well. So I made sure that my presence was known, that I was being persistent, and ultimately I was able to be connected with people at the company that eventually allowed me to obtain an interview that led to a full-time job at the company. Now, if I took that initial no to heart, and I let that discourage me, then I wouldn't be where I am today. So don't let no's deter you, and don't let it stop you from accomplishing your dreams and those goals that you have. All right, so understand that you're not doing this alone. You have support. You have the ALCO community here for you. And once you're a part of ALCO and you join you join a family that's comprised of thousands of alumni that are going to be here on your side through the whole job search journey. And like I mentioned before, ALCO is almost like a gym where you can practice your skills. And once you start doing these reps of applying to companies, doing the interview prep, negotiating salary prep, putting in that work, you can start seeing positive results. So it's a place where you can practice, you can build, and continuing to sharpen your skills, be competent, and build that confidence as well. And like I mentioned before, you're already doing lifelong learning just by being in this session. So continue doing that. All right. So we went through Outcode's job search checklist. We did check one, do I understand the technical interview process? Check two, have I practiced my technical interviewing skills? And have I built deep confidence and practiced my interview communication skills? So I want to leave you with a bonus as well. So base salary conversation is part of the whole process, right? Making sure that we get the salary that we deserve. We just one of the things that we need to keep in mind during this part of the process is that we don't want to give them a number. Like if they're asking us what is your preferred salary, we don't want to say, oh, my preferred salary is 120,000 or 100,000. We want to pivot, deflect, and give them and see how we could get a range from them. See what salary is being considered for that position. So here's I'm gonna go through this graphic here so that we can be on the same page. So let's say you're being asked the question, what is your current and preferred salary? If anybody asks you, let's say they're not a recruiter, I'm gonna go on the right side. Let's say they're not a recruiter. You want to make sure that you deflect and you say, is it possible to touch on this a bit later in the process? Right, that's a good way to deflect. Another way to deflect, you can say, I'd love to understand more about the scope of the role and team before committing to a range at this time. Or you can say, I don't want compensation to be a limiting factor, but would rather get to know the team first. I'm happy to discuss this later down the line. So this is a good way for you to pivot if anybody who's not a recruiter is asking you, what is your current and preferred salary? And this is the reasoning behind this is because we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot by just saying a number. So the goal here is to not share what our salary is or what we hope to get at this company. Now, let's say it's a recruiter who's asking, what is your current and preferred salary? So in this case, you can say, can I ask, you're deflecting here, can I ask what range you had in mind for this role? Right, you're not being direct and saying a number. You can also say, what is the typical range you pay for this role? So you're getting that information, trying to see if they could give you an information. So let's say 100,000 is what you thought would be great. If they wind up giving you a range and they're like, for this role, we often pay 115 to 130, given on experience how well you're doing in your interview. Then okay, like 100 was good for you, but now you get higher your range there, and you're not giving them that number. You're not losing your leverage. Now, let's say the interviewer shares the range. If the interviewer shares the range and the number is higher, you can say, thank you for sharing. Yes, this is in line with what I'm looking to obtain. If the number is within the range, you can say the same thing. Yes, thanks for sharing. This is something that I'm looking to obtain. Now, if it's below the range, this is your chance to be like, thank you for sharing. I'm actually looking for something between X and Y, but I don't want this to be a sticking point so early in the process. Can we revisit this later on? So this allows you to move past it. And if you just kill your interview, then later on, you might even be considered for a higher range because they like you that much, right? Now, let's say the interviewer doesn't share the range. If the interviewer does not share the range, you can say, I'm looking for a range between X and Y, but I'm open to understanding what the team is willing to offer for this role. So again, you're giving them your range, but you're not giving them a direct number. And then for two, you can also say, right now I'm being considered for roles with salaries between X and Y. So let's say you're interviewing at other companies and you have multiple offers. That's something you could say. Salaries between X and Y, but I'm open to understanding what the team is able to pay for this role. So again, you're not giving them a number. And something to know too, if an employer or somebody's asking you, what is your current salary at the company, you never want to give them your salary. It's actually illegal to in the state of California for an employer to ask you what is the salary that you're currently making. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the chat here. Let me do that right now. So when somebody's asking you what are you currently making, you don't have to be compelled to answer that question. All right. So that's what I got. That's all. Appreciate you being part of this. Help a small business out. Leave us a Yelp review. Search us up on Yelp and see what other people have said about us. We would love for you to be part of the Alco program. Let's go ahead. Let's get all the jobs. Let's we're in this together. And if you have any questions, feel free to throw your questions down. If you're interested in an Alco info session, feel free to answer that poll. I see we have most of us already answering the poll, so awesome to see that. So I'll pause here for any questions that you guys have. For anything that was shared with links, definitely bookmark those. It's going to help you out for the whole job search process. Definitely utilize that resume template. I've seen a lot of people get jobs just by structuring the resume in a good way. Awesome, Arjun. I appreciate you. Thank you for the feedback. All right. Let me know if anybody has questions. Love that we had a lot of people joining us from all around the country. Lydia, thank you. Thank you, Samuel. Appreciate your time. Hope to see you guys at a future event. All right. Thanks for the information, but how we can join you. All right. Yes. So outcode.io. If you go to outcode.io, you could learn more about us. If you want to apply to Alco, you could just go to outcode.io/apply, and you could fill out this application. And then one of our coaches, one of the people here who work at Alco will reach out to you. So I'll go ahead and throw that link here in the chat for you. If you want to just learn about Alco in general, though, outcode.io is the site. Thanks, thank you, Austin. Thank you, Santi. All right. Love it. Thanks again for everyone. Okay, let me see. I see one question. All right. What's the most polite way to check if the company culture or office setup aligns with what I'm looking for? For example, they might boast about open office, but not necessarily that it is also painted electric orange and lime green. How to find that in advance? So I guess the question is like, how do you find out more about the company's culture? If you want to learn more about the company, I would research their company website. I would look at Blind, resources like Blind. Blind allows you to see what other people are saying about that company. You can look at sites like Glassdoor to see what other people say about the company as well. So Glassdoor.com is a great way to see what people are saying. Let's see, just Google. So reviews. So you can see like pros and cons. Company. So you just like look at reviews, see what other people have said about the culture. moving at the speed of light, burnout is inevitable, right? That's a very great way. So that's one of those ways. But yeah, great question. All right. Let's see. One more. I'll answer one more question. Let's see. What should I do if I hear from a company first? Let's chat. And then after I reply, they don't continue and get back to me anymore. Yeah, great question. So oftentimes you have people reaching out saying, let's chat. And they could be reaching out to a lot of people, right? That's just the nature of it. If you respond and then you don't hear back, I would give them some time, give them like 2 to 3 days, 3, 4 days around there, see if they respond. And if they don't respond, then just, politely follow up. You can say, hey, just wanted to follow up on your message. I did a little bit of research about the company and I saw this, and this about it. And it was super interesting. I loved this about the culture, right? And you would like to set some time up to chat if that person still has the time. So that's a great way to follow up on that. Thanks for showing us the template. And I'll ask one last question. Thanks for showing us the template. What is your opinion on objective or mission statements? So objective or mission statements, you mean like for the resume? I think it depends on the person. There's a lot of people, they say, have the technical skills at the very top, and that that'll be easily readable. Like somebody can quickly see that. The time where I recommend an objective is if you're very concentrated. Like for me, for example, my job is within information technology, but within IT, I'm very concentrated. Like I'm in cybersecurity, and then within cybersecurity, I'm in incident response, like computer forensics. So I'm not applying to just any job within software engineering. So if you are very niche and looking for something like super niche, then you could throw an objective in there. That way you make sure that you're only being considered for those roles. But if you're just looking for, in general, like software engineering roles, then I would say you don't really need a mission statement or objective on the top of your resume. But that's a cool thing to put though, if you're on your LinkedIn profile. So if you go to your LinkedIn profile, I'll just quickly go to mine. So on mine, I have like an about, and if you go to my about, you can see like I have like a whole about there that anybody who, if they have my resume, they pick it up, they're interested in me, they're gonna look at my LinkedIn anyway, right? So put that right in there in your about. That's how I do it. But yeah, great questions, everybody. That's unfortunately that's all the time we got. I hope to see more people joining for future sessions. Hopefully, you get to join that info session. And I appreciate everybody. Thank you for your time. I'll catch you at the next one.